Hello, my name is Laura Baber, and I'm a spiritual director. I was trained by the Center for Spiritual Formation's Ministry of Spiritual Direction program, and I am here to offer some ideas on how to have a personal retreat as we social distance, as we find new rhythms in our journey to help us practice the presence of God. Personal retreating can be a rich experience for those of us seeking the quiet, seeking deeper times of prayer. And so I've developed a few tips to help you go on a personal retreat. The first one, sometimes folks are a little nervous about what to do. And so this video offers a self-guided way for you to experience personal retreating. It will be helpful for you to have a journal, something to write with, maybe a glass of water handy. You are welcome to stop the video anytime you want to take notes or capture what's on the screen. So I pray this is a helpful process for you. Enjoy. So it helps to understand what a retreat is as we begin approaching our own personal retreat. A retreat is a time where you step away from the pressure and duties of life. It's a time of body, mind, and spiritual rest. Retreats are intimate experiences of prayer which can liberate grief, creativity, insight, or renewal for our whole beings. Typically, retreats are not times to catch up on work, voluminous reading, rigorous study, or exegesis. It's not really a time to plan your sermon. Instead, retreats are times of quiet rest, listening, and reflecting. This can be challenging because often we want them to be productive, but this is a chance to simply be. Retreat experiences offer space to step away from the relentless push, release the losses of life to Christ, and allow ourselves a space to open our souls and drink from the deep well of God's love. A lot of times folks call study weekends or sermon prep weekends or catching up on your reading weekends retreats. Really, that's not a retreat. It's okay to do those things and they're great, but we need regular rhythms to just step away and be in the presence of God. There are lots of wonderful scriptures, and I'm going to invite you to take a moment to reflect on these on your own. Mark 8:12 through 14, Matthew 16, 3 through 5, Luke 6:12 through 13, and Luke 9:28 to 29 are good examples of Jesus stepping away and encouraging us to set ourselves apart for times of renewal. It's helpful to plan for wholeness and do personal retreating as part of your ongoing journey of rhythms that are life-giving for you. I find it helpful to approach both all three aspects of ourselves, our bodies, our minds, our spirits, to see what it is that we need. You know, if our body's exhausted, then on the retreat, we might simply need to rest. If our mind is fearful, if we're agitated or we've experienced a lot of anxiety or fear or worry, then we may need to do things that help us stabilize emotionally, all before we can tend to the work of the Spirit. But they're all intertwined. And so it's helpful to think, what is it that you need for your body, for your emotional well-being, your mental health, and for the state of your soul, the soul, that place where Christ abides in you. So schedule retreat times as part of your wholeness plan. And you may want to meet with a spiritual director as part of your plan, perhaps as you're going into the retreat, as you're exiting the retreat, to schedule your appointments around that. I personally have enjoyed spending days apart where my spiritual direction appointment is part of that experience. And so setting the whole day or 3 days apart for solitude and silence with a spiritual direction as a component of that. And many spiritual directors are on site at retreat centers or as we are sheltering in place now, you can meet with your spiritual director probably online. I do most of my work with my spiritual directees via Zoom, phone, FaceTime. So there's lots of flexibility with that now. Um, I invite you to try to allow for some buffer space before and after your retreat. I like to say that you can't go from the Holy of Holies right into Walmart, and that's too harsh on the soul. So plan some gentle space to ease into the retreat and to exit the retreat. Some people love to take walks or beautiful drives. You'll know what you need to do, but some buffer space before or after your retreat experience. It's helpful to find a place to retreat. If you are under a quarantine or sheltering at home, find perhaps a space in your yard, your neighborhood, or somewhere in your home that's as distraction-free as possible. Create a restful place. It's helpful to have good light and quiet. It's really helpful to detach from technology, unless, of course, you're meeting with your spiritual director for part of it. But I would encourage, if you're struggling with that, to have that component be at the beginning or the end of your experience. It's so helpful to have access to nature or beauty, and spending time outside as part of your retreat experience is very cathartic. So before you arrive, let your family, or before you start your retreat, let your family, work, friends know you're unavailable. Set up an emergency contacts if you need to. Ask some friends or family members to pray for you while you're doing this. Will you fast or feast? Both are wonderful to do, not at the same time. You can't do it at the same time. So if you're fasting, honor that and have the things that will help you, maybe water or tea, juice, whatever it is that you're using to fast. And then if you're feasting, plan on food that's delightful for you, that is the banquet table. So pick which one, let the Spirit guide you, and plan accordingly. Dress comfortably. You don't have to impress anybody on retreat. Wear things that delight your sense of touch and are very comfortable, that are easy to walk in, and not tight or binding. Have tissues handy. Um, Pack a watch, or so that you don't have to keep checking your phone to see what time it is. It's really helpful if you can remove yourself from your phone. Uh, Pack a few writing and art supplies. I find having color, even if you're not an artist, having some color, simple child's crayons are fine. Um, Sometimes just expressing ourselves in color, it can be a very calming activity, and it can also help give some insight to what the Spirit's trying to uncover as we spend the time in the quiet. Sometimes folks have headaches as they enter into the quiet. They feel all kinds of things in their bodies. And so you may want to pack some pain reliever if that's helpful for you. If you're driving somewhere, try to turn off the radio and phone when you actually step out of your home and enter your car. Get as detached as you can from the cell phone and technology. When you arrive, you may want to lock your car. When you begin, you may want to put your phone in a place that is not easily accessible. Maybe your garage. You might want to lock it in your trunk. You might want to give your phone to a family member and say, or a friend, and say, I need you to hold this for the day. I need to not have access to this. And when you do it, take a few deep breaths. Look around and become present to the place where you are going to be retreating. Before you do anything, just simply settle in and notice things. Feel yourself in the space. And when you are truly present to yourself and that space, offer a prayer to help you become present to the presence of God. This might take a while. and give yourself a lot of grace. It helps to doodle as you settle in. And again, it takes me quite some time, especially if I've been pushing really hard. It takes me a while to settle. These are examples of some things that I have doodled when I'm trying to settle. I often paint and draw leaves, thousands and thousands of leaves. I find it very calming. In the book of Revelation, it says that the leaves are for the healing of the nations. And I just personally find leaves very calming to doodle. Uh, so try it as you begin to settle. Just doodle on a page without thinking. Sometimes just coloring with one color or painting with watercolor, just one color, can help calm and relax. As you seek to become present in the retreat experience, can you allow yourself to stop striving? You don't have to get this right. So notice if you're still pushing. Enter into the quiet. Breathe as prayer. Welcome the Spirit's leading and then trust and obey it along the way. Distractions will come, and simply release those distractions to Christ. Some people like to write the distractions down and simply put them at the cross or throw them into a wastebasket. But throughout the day, over and over again, simply release the things to Christ to hold. Be attentive and explore any resistance you're noticing to settling into the quiet. Repeat all of this as often as you need to. Once you've become quiet, agitation and grief, and sometimes even anger and rage can rise up in us, particularly if we haven't been grieving as a regular practice. I like to describe this simply as the dross rising to the surface as we are seeking to be purified in times of retreat. And so if grief rises up in you, can you feel it and feel it with Jesus, releasing it, letting it go, rising it up, weeping if you need to, taking a walk if you need to, releasing the energy of the loss, naming the losses that you've journeyed through and giving them to Christ. It can be very cathartic and helpful, and it's very normal at the beginning of a retreat experience to have lots of agitation, tears, anger. Those are all normal. Be kind to yourself. And so after you've settled and entered into the quiet and had some time of kind of purifying grief, it's helpful to ask, how is it with your soul? Really? Get down to the deep level of where Christ lives in you and listen for the loving response of, how is it? How am I doing really at that core place? Dialogue with God as honestly as you can. You may want to do it out loud. You may want to journal. You may want to sketch it out or draw it and see what emerges. Feel your truth as it is expressed. And that means a connection with your body as you are expressing to God how you're doing. If anything is released, I invite you to picture what's leaving your body as you speak, write, or paint it. What does it look like as you give it to Christ? Stop for a while. Listen to the Spirit and see what the response is. What happens next? If you find yourself distracted, simply start over again with the question, how is it with my soul, really? And listen and converse with God. It's helpful also to, once you've settled in and to see how it is that you're doing, how it is with your soul, to get to the place of honesty about what you're really looking for. You know, after Jesus was resurrected, he asked people questions. Woman, why are you troubled? What is bothering you? What are you looking for? Who are you looking for? And so, a lovely question on retreat is, what are you seeking? And spend some time again dialoguing with God about what you're looking for. Another way to put that can be the longing of your heart. God, I am longing for, and see if you can get to the heart of what that is. Then it's really a beautiful experience to feast on the Word. Um, so you can listen for the Spirit's prompting about what text you are to receive that day, or you can use the lectionary and pick a lectionary reading for the week. It helps to read the text, and I wouldn't pick a big one, just pick one particular passage and read the text several times out loud. Reflect on what's nourishing your soul in this moment and see what God is feeding you. If you are tempted to use that text for your next sermon or Bible study, or you think, oh, my family member really needs to hear this, resist that temptation. This word is for you today. It is to feed your soul. You're that important. And I would invite you to resist the temptation to use the word for another purpose. Let it feed you. Express your response to the reading as honestly as you can. Again, use color to write or draw or collage. Be creative as you express. And it's helpful as you express, or after you've expressed how you're responding, to listen to what the Spirit says back to you. How is Christ responding back to what you've said? And it's a wonderful way to listen and converse with God. Let it feed you and listen for the response. Okay, this is so important. Restore. Enter into restoration. If you sleep the whole day on retreat, that's probably okay. Take walks, move your body, drink something, hydrate a lot, like water or tea. I really discourage the use of alcohol on retreats because we don't want to be numb. We want to be fully alive. And so there are some retreats where some people love to take a bottle of wine, but I would encourage you to resist that temptation and see if you can feel everything full throttle with Jesus, and then do what it is that you need to do to be most alive. That might be rest, that might be move, that might be drink, that might be eat, that might be fast. Notice what it is your body is longing for, uh, and respond to it. Repeat this as often as needed. And a few helpful resources. Reuben Job has developed some wonderful personal retreat day models in the back of his guide to prayer. He's got several issues of guide to prayer, but in the back of all of them are personal retreat models that are very helpful. And he also wrote one a guide to retreat for all God's shepherds that's very helpful and offers us several different examples of retreating for people who are in ministry. And I wrote a book called Rhythms of Restoration, which offers a guide for settling. There are also a number of online retreat resources that you can see here, and just lots out there to help you in the experience of retreat. So I hope that this has been a helpful process for you, and I will be longing to hear how this goes for you. If I can help in any way, please be in touch. My email is rhythmsofrestoration@gmail.com. If you need more resources, the Center for Spiritual Formation has some wonderful videos available, and you can check their website or their YouTube channel for more prayer experiences. So I pray for renewal and restoration as you encounter God in the rhythms of your life. Go in peace. Amen.